Thank you, Travis. He mentioned Tolstar. If you've not been to the website, it's tolstar.com. We've got, I think it's right at 3,000 sermons that are up on that website. And they are they're cross-referenced by topic, by speaker, by series. If there's a lecture you're interested in. But I find it very, very helpful. Some of the older brothers here are saying, did you know brother so-and-so, brother so? They've been dead several years. The answer is yes. Some of them I did know. But some of the ones that we did not know, we have on that list. We have 9,000 more we're about to put on. So we have over 10,000 sermons that were recorded years ago. The man, I won't go into the whole history, but the man's name was Brother Tuller. That's why, hence the Tolstar. We honored his name when Jason and I put all this together years ago. And Ryan Smithy from Angelo is one of the guys that does the tech side of it. But that is a good resource when somebody contacts you and has a question, or you're studying through a book of the Bible. If you're driving like I am, you're stuck in traffic all the time, it's better than listening to the same song loop over and over and over again. So we highly recommend that. We also do some publishing. All of our stuff is free. We charge nothing for this. We pay it all out of pocket. There's some of it out there. That book that David Harris wrote called There's No Whining in Paul's House. David had cancer real bad. He was the oldest bone marrow transplant survivor there in Texas when he had his transplant surgery. And it's not light reading. But if you have somebody who's struggling with cancer, it seems to be somewhat therapeutic. It goes through his 109-day journal that he took while he was in that hospital. He converted one of his nurses and one of his doctors, by the way, during those 3 months he was there in that hospital in Fort Worth. So there's a place for that book. If you know somebody who can use it, again, take all and use it. The tracks are just there for you to peruse and take also as you need. I am an optimist. And because of that, I also brought our QR codes for our camp this summer. So if you have a junior high age group kid or a high school age group kid, and y'all want to drive, I suggest fly, because I just drove up here. It's a little further than it looks on the map. But anyway, the camps are free. We charge nothing for that either. At the church at Baines, we do all we can. And I'm not saying it's wrong to charge that kind of stuff. But we don't want anybody missing the gospel, any opportunity to learn. And we've been blessed out there. So that also costs them nothing if they get there. I really thought more than likely you might have a grandkid or a cousin or somebody in the Texas, Oklahoma, Louisiana area that can make that drive easier. So that's out there for y'all as well. I told you this morning, all these lessons kind of fit together in a sense. We had Daniel be the ideal or one of the ideal subjects of the Bible. What a man walking with God looks like, can look like. Then this morning we talked about how to know where authority comes from and to know how God speaks to us and what we need to be following. A lot of folks, they have their attitude right. They're just misguided on where they're putting it. So you can't follow God wrong and get to the right place. So you have to understand the truth on authority and how the Bible authorizes. Tonight, Snares of the Devil. Once I figure out that the Christian life can be lived, Daniel, and once I figure out that the authority from the Word of God can be ascertained, I can understand how to follow Him and serve Him. Then the question arises, then why don't we sometimes? Well, stuff gets in the way. The devil has a way of throwing little traps out there. And I will go through it as we go through it tonight. I don't really have on this list a lot of dark, sinful activity. Most of these things here are okay in and of themselves. But if they get in the way, anything that hinders me from serving God is a problem. And I've got to do some repositioning of priorities. Then tomorrow night we're going to discuss and see the price paid, the crucifixion, the death of Christ, why He died, how He died, what it should mean to us. We had the Lord's Supper this morning. And if we're properly thinking about what He did, that should be a very, very intimate moment every week. Anything we do with great rapidity and repetition can become habitual. May that never be the case for the Lord's Supper. May it always be special to us every time that we engage in that. Tuesday night, the Day of Judgment. There's a lot in the Bible. I think I do have 10 or 12 points. I'll go quickly. Imagine that. But it won't be a long sermon. But the Bible lays out very specifically what the Day of Judgment will be like. And what's going to be the standard and who's going to be there and all those things. It should be a very interesting. We're all going to be there, so I need to know something about it. And then the final night, procrastination. We tend to put things off sometimes. So that one, I know I need that sermon quite frequently. And I suspect some of y'all could use that as well. All right, snares or traps. Where we live, we run cattle, and we have run a lot of goats over the years. We run a lot of sheep over the years. And we have something out there called a coyote. They're real cute on camera. They're not real cute in real life, but they kill your Coyotes will kill a kid every night. They'll kill a goat every night. I mean, every night. Until they're dead, your animals die every single night. So we use what's called snares for the most part. It's a cable about that long. You make a loop in it, and you pull the loop through. You tie it to a T-post. You find a trail with it, whatever animal's been crossing. You set that snare up. When the animal goes through, it gets them around the head. It tightens up. It either gets them by the neck or mid-body or whatever. They either die in the snare or they die when you find them the next day and you have your gun and you put them out of their misery. But the point is, it's a trap. And it's a trap they don't see. There's nothing fancy about it. They don't see it till it's too late. Now, I saw a few bodies of water up here. Y'all got a few lakes around here, I think. Maybe a few more. You know, people from Texas like to brag, okay? We brag about everything. You hear a Texan talking, divide by 2, you're getting close, okay? But when it comes to water, we won't even lie. Y'all got some water. We can fish, but y'all got a lot of water up here. If we're in the ocean, we got small water compared to y'all's water. But when you go fishing, I don't even know what kind of fish y'all have. Y'all got those cold water fish. Maybe y'all have some great northern pike or something up here, right? Y'all got some big fish. We got those little catfish and bass. So I'm going to catch me a pike. I'm going to assume it's just like a bass. I'll tell you what I know is bass. All right, so I want to catch that big old bass. I start with a hook. Well, on that hook, you put a skirt. You get some kind of rubber material or something, and you put that skirt that kind of hides that hook. And then you might put a rattle. You know what a rattle is? That thing makes a noise whenever it's in the water. And then you might get you a blade, a propeller-type blade. It's going to cause some agitation, some vibration in the water. And you get you maybe a gold or a silver spinner. And that thing's up there spinning, catching that sunlight, and it's flashing. So when I throw it out there, that bass looks up and it sees that skirt that's doing its thing in the water, and it feels that vibration of the water, and it sees all that pretty stuff. I even have some stuff I call it stink pretty. Stinks real bad. But you spray it on there, it can smell that bait. It sees and feels everything except the hook. And when it grabs that beautiful bait for a bite, it gets the hook. And then it gets to cook, right? So it's what he doesn't see that causes the problem. That's the same thing the devil does with you and I. If Satan showed you what sin really did to you and to your family and to your mental capacity and to your physical body, you would never do it. The Proverbs talks about how the way of the transgressor is hard. The classic example is the beer commercials. You turn them on, well, you can't turn them off. They're just on everything. But during the ball game, you're watching good-looking guys, good-looking girls. They're playing volleyball over the Rockies. They're all having fun. They're laughing. The boys have, those all abs everywhere. The girls are built like Greek goddesses. And if you drink beer, that's how you look. No. And that's not how your personality is. And that's not the real. They don't show the busted homes, the battered wives, the car wrecks, the financial ruin, all the physical health issues that go along with all that. They don't show you that, do they? Because if the devil showed you that, you wouldn't drink the stuff. It's false advertisement. We're right back to the fish and the bait. So what are some of these snares or traps he uses for? By the way, this is a biblical topic. That is 1 Timothy 3 and verse 7. When it comes to qualifications of an elder, we're told there that they must be of good report, lest they themselves fall into a snare of the devil. Those qualifications are there to help elders not fall into a snare. 2 Timothy 2, 25 and 26, in meekness, instructing those who oppose themselves to repent and turn back to the truth, that they may recover themselves out of the snare of the devil. I like the hope that when you and I sin, we kind of got snookered into it. Hebrews 10 talks about another kind of sin, the willful sin. When I do it on purpose, that's a problem. And we can do that too, and you can get over that too, but that's a challenge. I got other problems when I do that. But we get kind of hoodwinked sometimes. We get pulled into stuff. We're going along. We begin to do something. We don't see where it's leading. We don't really see how it's going to end up. By the way, that's a good definition of wisdom. To see the end of a matter before it begins, that's a real good way to be. But sometimes we don't see it till it's too late. 2 Corinthians 2 and verse 11, Paul says there, I worry about you, lest the devil should get the advantage over us. So therefore, we are not going to be ignorant of his devices. So I'm going to show you in the next several moments some of the ways he gets a lot of us. I only have one purpose tonight, and that's this: for you and I to be watching out for the traps. That's it. And it's a constant game, a constant problem. Didn't Paul say, let a man examine himself to be sure he's in the faith? James 1 talks about the gospel being a mirror of the soul. I need to make sure, and every now and then stop and see how am I doing. I see a few gray hairs out there. You know, those older ones, sometimes you have quarterly or biannual checkups. They draw blood and they look at this, they look at that, just to make sure things are where they're supposed to be. Well, spiritually, we need to have checkups quite often, hopefully every Sunday when we're in Bible class or we're hearing a sermon. And some will apply to us more than others at different times in life, but it will help us. Reading our Bible does. Have you ever noticed how when you go to your Bible and you read a passage that you may have read many, many times? I suspect many of y'all read your Bible through every year, or you have in the past, and you've read various passages. Have you ever noticed how when you come to some text and you're going through it, it will hit you differently than it used to? You're like, well, I never saw that before. I never really got that. You know why? The Bible hadn't changed. You've changed. You never go to the Bible as the same person. Your daily experiences are affecting you. The things that you go through, your successes and your failures, they affect you. So it means more to you later as you see it. If your parents are in this room, please shake your head yes when I say this. It'll make them feel good. But have you ever had an experience where your mom or dad told you something or tried to teach you something you didn't think they knew what they were talking about? But then years later, when you lived a little and you went through a very similar situation, you thought, you know what? Mama was right. That's exactly how that is. Daddy was right when he tried to get me to do it that way. My favorite line to my kids is this: ask me how I know. Boy, that won't work. How do you? I tell you how I know. I did it and it doesn't work. I learned things usually the slow, hard, painful, expensive way. I got some body scars to prove some of it as far as how we learn our lessons. All right, so what are some of these traps that he uses? I'm going to burn this in your mind too. The devil is never on your side. We got some younger folks here too, so I want to get this across. There is nothing that God requires of us that's not for our good. You know, Moses makes that point many times in his preaching. All of my statutes, all of my laws, all of my dictates were for your good continually. Number two, there's nothing good that the Bible asks you to give up. We sometimes act like, oh, to be a Christian, you can't have any fun. You can't do any of the good stuff. Everything's no, 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 no. That's not true. I challenge anybody in this room to tell me one thing when we get through. Don't interrupt me now, but at the end. One thing that God says don't do that is good for you to do, that's beneficial for you to do. There's not one. I'm going to go further. Here's an illustration. I drive a lot, as y'all saw this week. I'm bad. I prefer to drive to fly, so I drive a lot. And on occasion, you go, it's better now, but on occasion, you have to go into a truck stop. I don't mean the big pretty ones on the interstate. I mean the other ones. And you go to the facilities. You ever walked in those facilities sometimes? You can smell it. You don't have to ask where the bathroom is. You can smell the bathroom is. And you go in there, and there's a stall, and there's a toilet, one single toilet situation. And this thing has been used hard. Okay, there it is. Imagine you get your big old yellow sponge and you drop that sponge in that nasty, dirty toilet water. And then you pick it up and you squeeze it. What comes out? Nasty, stinky, dirty toilet water, right? That's the devil, friends. James 1 verse 17, every good gift, every perfect gift descendeth down from the Father of lights, in whom there is no variation or shadow of turning. All the good stuff comes from God. The devil has nothing good to give us. I don't care what the temptation is. It's always a facade. He has nothing to give you. He can't give you contentment. He can't give you happiness. He can't give you joy. He can't give you success. He can't give you a clear conscience. He can't give you heaven. He has none of that. He can give you depression. He can give you sin. He can give you shame. He can give you depression. I said that one. He can give you divorce. He can give you disease. He can give you death. He can give you damnation. Now that is axiomatic, and you know it. There's nothing good in him. Christ says the devil is a murderer and a liar from the beginning. The first time he spoke, he convinced our great grandma Eve, thou shalt not surely die. He lied. He deceived. He repositioned. Look at how he does this. Has God said you cannot eat of all the trees of the garden? That's not quite the same as God saying you can have all of them, but that one, it almost sounds like, well, God's being just irrational and unfair. That's how the devil still comes at us. So this is how he plays. You know this, I know this, but we forget. We get sloppy. We put our head right in the noose of the snare sometimes. So what are some of the more common snares that he gets us with? In our country, one of them is money, the money trap. We're so focused on making more money. One of the brothers today was making a big point and a good point about how, especially once you get past, say, 50, the whole financial conversation shifts to retirement. And well, nothing wrong with having some money for retirement. But don't forget that story about that man, Luke chapter 12. He had a great big crop, big bumper crop. By the way, God blessed him that he had all that good money. He says to himself, his barns were told, I know what I'll do. I'll tear down my barns. I'll build bigger and better barns. And I'll say to myself, soul, thou hast much goods laid up for many years. Eat, drink, and take thine ease. And then, of course, God spoke. Thou fool, this night thy soul shall be required of thee. Then who shall these things be? So there's no guarantee we're ever going to spend any of that money anyway. But we get so caught up in the money possession chase. I think our daddies do it sometimes. Men are worse than women, I think, in this regard. We really want to take care of our wives, which is commendable, and our children, and we'll do anything to do it. We'll work, 40 hours, 50 hours, 60 hours, 2 jobs, 70 hours. Well, we will literally take ourselves out of the family, miss the ball games, miss the school programs. We will miss everything. Get up and leave early, get in late, be so dog tired and beat we can't do anything with the family. We will literally remove ourselves from our family and our crazy way of thinking we're helping the family. They don't need name brand shoes and name brand pants. They need daddy in the floor wrestling with them when they're little. They need to learn how to throw a baseball out in the front yard. They need time with us. Our wife needs us there. So the emotion of helping our family, providing, that's godly. But the devil has a way of tricking us, you see, kind of tweaking that to where he twists what was okay in and of itself and ruins the whole process. 1 Timothy 6 and verse 9, but godliness with contentment is great gain. Then he goes further, for we brought nothing in this world, it's certain we can take nothing out. You came in this place naked and crying, you're going to leave the same way. They're going to strip you down and pump you full of drugs if you have a regular funeral, or burn you in an oven if you don't. You got here, they put a diaper on you, you live long enough, they're going to put one on you now too, and then you're going to die and go out. That's how you got here, that's how you think about this. The only thing you brought in this life that lasts is your soul. And the only thing you get to take when you leave is the same way. That's a sobering thought when you stop. That's probably a cup of coffee thought there. Sit back and think about that. All this other stuff doesn't matter. If we're not careful, we get caught up in the money portion of it. And the danger is Matthew 6:24. And by the way, I'm not against money. We need money. You can't do the work of the Lord without money. You can't find a poor patriarch in the whole Bible, okay? God blesses you. I think when you're honest and hardworking and dependable as a child of God, you're going to do well at your job. You're going to be the best employee there, and they will take care of you. That's kind of how this is built. But don't fall into Matthew 6, verse 24, where Christ says, for no man can serve two masters. You either love the one and hate the other, hold the one, despise the other. You cannot serve God and money. You can have but not serve money, you see. That's Matthew 6:19. Christ says, lay not up for yourselves treasures on earth, where moth and rust doth corrupt, where thieves break through and steal, but lay your treasures up in heaven, where moth and rust do not corrupt, and where thieves do not break through and steal. But where is our heart when it comes to the money? We've got to make sure we don't get caught up in that. Nothing wrong with it. I'm going to test you, see if you have this problem. Ephesians 5, verse 3. Let not covetousness be named once among you. Colossians 3 and verse 5. Covetousness is idolatry. Luke 12:15. Beware that covetousness is not in you, that a man's life consisteth not of the things which he possesses. Question. Are you the kind of person that cannot buy anything full price? Are you the kind of person that when you're buying a car, buying a boat, buying something, you have to be on top? I got a good deal. That guy over there, boy, I got to him good. Do you have to always win? I had a situation years ago. My boy, we had, I don't know, about 200 goats. I had a pretty good sized pen of goats. And the guy in the area came by and made me a blanket offer on the whole set. He wanted to buy all of them. And I accepted, and he took it. And I had two boys, one high school age boys, and they had quite a few as well. And my oldest boy said, Daddy, we could have gone to the sale and sold those goats and probably made, a little bit more money than what I got. I said, well, Dawson, to start with, there's nothing wrong with the other guy getting a good deal. Think about that. Why do you care? So if I get somebody to come down $1,000 on a bull I'm trying to buy, I feel content. But if he asks $1,000 more than I want to give, why should I not also give that? Why can't he win? Why can't he get full price? See what I'm saying? Is it covetous? I'll tell you one thing. I ain't ever going to buy a car unless they come off the sticker from me. Look at your heart. I'm not saying you have to go up there and just start counting out $100 bills on the hood of the car, but I'm saying be careful that we don't have a covetous heart, that we're not somewhat selfish in that regard, that the money doesn't mean more to us than how we treat people and how people are treated by us. All right, let me move to the next one. Then there's the majority trap. I'm not going to stay on this very long because we had a point on the majority and peer pressure and all that this morning. But be careful about caring what other people think. I don't imagine very many people watching the battlefield really thought that David had much of a chance against Goliath. But you saw how that turned out, didn't you? And Noah's Ark, oh, Noah, you're crazy. It ain't going to rain. How'd that turn out? Well, you know how that turned out as well. Exodus 23 and verse 2. Thou shalt not follow a majority to do evil. Christ would actually say, beware when all men speak well of you. Now, we're not trying to be odd people. There are people who are just weird. Okay? We're not trying to be weird. And by the way, being weird does not help the church. I know some people sometimes, they got a lot of zeal and no sense, and they can actually hurt the church. Their heart may be in the right place, but they're just not the right person to be out front when it comes to certain things. But in 1 Peter 2, chapter 2, we're told we are to be a peculiar people. How about Philippians 2:15? That you may be blameless, the sons of God, without rebuke, in the midst of a crooked generation and a perverse nation, that you might shine as lights in a dark place. We will never fit in with everybody else. Matthew 5:13 through 16, you are the salt of the earth, the light of the world. A city set upon a hill cannot be hidden. Men don't light a candle, put it under a bushel, but on a candlestick, and it gives light to the whole house. You're going to be different. You're not going to be walking with the world. Think about this. If my attitude is the same as the world, and my words are the same as the world, and my lifestyle is the same as the world, guess what? I am the same as the world. Christ's attitude wasn't the same as the world. His words weren't the same as the world. His actions weren't the same as the world. So we're going to be different because we're following Christ. So don't worry about the majority. Next one, the minute trap. Man, we are so overscheduled. I don't know about you, but typically, when you start reading, go back 15, 20 years, you start reading about cell phones and about computers, they're great because they process so quickly. They're going to free your schedule. You're going to have so much more time. You can play golf in the afternoons. You spend more time with your kids. No, what we wound up doing was we just started doing more stuff. Since we could do so much more stuff quickly, we just started doing more stuff. You ever find yourself grabbing your phone to check a text or an email that hadn't even vibrated yet? That's funny because we do it. But brother, it is sad because we do it. The average American now reads 0.7 books a year. Your brain is very, very different when you are reading, because when you read, there's something happening to you. There's actually biochemical exchanges in your mind. There's a physiological response between your vision, the paper, the light, the imprintation on your brain. You're processing. You're making sense of the sentence. You're following the plot of the story. You're forming a position emotionally about the characters or the events you're reading. It's a slower, more methodical process. By the way, it's also imprinted on your mind. You can remember Old Yeller from when you read it, a long, long time ago for some of y'all, or Where the Red Fern Grows, or Shakespeare, whatever else it was that we were studying back today. But when you're in a video, and I'm not saying it's ever going back, it's not. But the video, the video clips you see and so forth, those affect you instantaneously. They're emotional. So when you see the riots and the stuff in the streets, what's happening there, we're living in the moment, emotional bait. It's just clickbait, and it fires you out. The big word is triggered, right? You see it, you have a visceral reaction. You have no idea what's actually going on, what actually led to that 10 seconds you saw, but you can't help it. When you see it, you are going to respond, and so am I. There's a reaction time to that, okay? Well, our minute trap, we're so over scheduled and so quick to live. We don't have time. Don't raise your hand. But have you ever felt like you didn't have time to read your Bible today? You ever think you didn't have time to say a prayer? I know this happens physically. Okay, every January 1st, we're going to eat better. We're going to exercise some. We're going to read a book. We're going to read the Bible. What happens? Life gets in the way. We get busier and busier. I was one of these real naive young people. I still see myself as a young person, but you're looking at something that doesn't look very young to you, right? Now. But I thought when you got older, things slowed down. It doesn't slow down. You go from having your kids, which is just a tornado in the house. It's always something to cook, fix, clean, go, do, what, this, that, and the other. And then they leave. Hopefully, they don't always leave. They leave. Then you get the college years. And then you got to go out to work because nobody makes enough money to help kids go to college. And that's just expensive. Then the grandbabies come along. But then your health starts changing. And then also you have that generation, that 15 years there, I call the sandwich generation, sandwich years. You got aged parents who are putting pressure. You got to take them to the doctors, help them with this, help them with that. And you got not quite grown on themselves, own kids yet down here. And you're getting, I see a lot of gray heads moving up down. We're getting pushed from both sides, aren't we? There's pressure here, there's pressure here. We didn't even see this coming. And then when that goes away, now we become the top half of that sandwich on our kids because I'm not that old. And I'm not sick. But me and my wife have reached that stage where if one of us doesn't have a doctor's appointment this week, that's a good week. And some weeks you have more than one. So we're just so caught up in time. And if we're not careful, we just don't use our time wisely. There's no doubt there are some days I waste nothing gets done. I told you this morning, some of that stuff you're watching online or some movie. You ever watch a movie that's just so dumb, stupid? You turn this, but you don't turn it off. And then it's got to get better. That can't be. It's got to have a plot sooner or later. Something's got to happen, and it doesn't. And you just lost 2 hours, and you're dumber. You lost some brain cells because of it. The book of Colossians, chapter 4, verse 5 says, walk in wisdom, redeeming the time. Benjamin Franklin once said, don't waste time. It's the stuff life's made out of. And you think about that. You stop about and think about how much time do you have left. You want a sobering reality. You say some of those of us who are a little bit older. You got to calculate how many years it is from how old you are now till what the average lifespan is. And maybe you've calculated how many weeks that is. You drop a couple of marbles, 2 marbles in a jar. That's how many weekends you got left. And every weekend you take 2 marbles out. And when you've lost all your marbles, but seriously, it helps kind of make you think about, hey, there's that, if time was a 12-hour clock, where are you on that clock? So we don't want to waste the time that we have. And I am not a pessimist. I'm a very optimistic person. We've got to be a realist too. You ever go in the morning, turn the light on, look in the mirror and say, who's that old man? What happened? Where'd my youth go? My oldest granddaughter is playing softball. She's a left-handed pitcher, which that's pretty cool. And she got her first home run, grand slam and stuff. But I digress. But so you go watch her. I'm sitting there watching. I actually half the time I call her by her mother's name, my daughter, because my daughter was a pitcher also. So I'm saying, hey, go Mickey, go Mickey. That's what I call Michaela. But it's not Michaela, it's Aria. But anyway, so I'm yelling at my kid, and I'm looking around, in every field, all of the guys my age. It seems like 2 summers ago, we were coaching our daughters who are now the mothers of the granddaughters we're watching. Where did I've been in banks 30 years. Where did 30 years, it went just like that. It went just like that. The brother here, Brother Jimmy, 90 years old. I guarantee you, he would tell you, just 3 summers ago, he's 15. It seems like it goes that fast. It's crazy how fast life goes by. Now, don't think about that. You'll get depressed. Don't do that. But I'm just saying, don't waste what we have. We need to make sure that we utilize our time. Hebrews 3:13 and 14. Exhort each other daily while it is day. Today, tell your wife you love her. Today, give the kid a hug and tell them a good job on what they were doing. I'll tell you one of these days, if you haven't talked to your mom or dad in a while, whoever in a while, get home tonight, make a phone call. Say, hey, I just missed you. Hadn't talked to you in a couple of weeks. How y'all doing? Because you don't know how many times you're going to have the opportunity to do that. 2 Corinthians 6 and verse 2, that's what Paul told Felix. He said, almost, or a more convenient time. Paul says, no, today is the day of conversion. Do not put these things off. The next one, how about the mouth trap? Man, the devil can get us. We can run our mouth and get in trouble. If you're emotional, some are more quick to be emotional than others. I don't care what the emotion is. Have you ever made a really good decision when you were emotional? When you're really mad, do you make good Christian decisions? You know, James says the wrath of man does not usually work the righteousness of God. If you're really sad, do you make really good decisions? Usually not. You ever bought a high dollar item on impulse? You buy a car that you didn't plan on buying, and not only did you buy one, you bought that one, you know. And man, you got to pay for that bad boy for you. Now, a decade, right? Years to get these things paid off. Be careful being emotional. Our mouth gets in trouble. You know, you kids can do this. Where the toy is. Sage, you get home, get that toothpaste, and you just squeeze the whole bottle of toothpaste out on the countertop when you get home. And then ask your daddy to put it back in. That's how words are. I can get mad. We sing that song sometimes, angry words, so let them never. So, you know, just one little blurb of words. And in a matter of a few seconds, you can damage a lifelong friendship. Now, they might be able to forgive you. Y'all might get past it. But they'll never forget you. But I didn't mean it. No, in that very instant, you did mean it. That's why it always hurts so bad. But be careful about our mouths. We get ourselves in trouble. Very quickly, from Proverbs 6, verse 2, we can be snared by the words of our mouth. You ever talked yourself into a problem? You can. Listen, you say everything you're thinking, you won't have a friend left by dark. You know, we need to use some restraint in how we speak. Proverbs 12:13, the wicked man is snared by his words. 18:7, the fool's lips snare his soul. Proverbs 10, verse 19, in the multitude of words, there is no lack of sin. 17:28, even a fool who holds his words is counted wise. Sometimes the old adage back home would be, you can keep your mouth shut. People think you're a fool. You can open your mouth and prove them right. And sometimes that's the case. The less we say, the better. A fool is also full of words. Ecclesiastes 9, verse 10. James 1:19, let every man be swift to hear, slow to speak, slow to wrath. My dad used to always say, son, you got a fence of ivory and a fence of flesh over your tongue. 2 eyes and 2 ears. God's trying to tell you something. Look and listen twice as much as you talk. And we'll be better off, most of us. You know, the very sobering passage is actually Matthew 12, 36 and 37. Brethren, every idle word that a man shall speak, he shall give an account thereof on the day of judgment. For by thy words thou shalt be justified, and by thy words thou shalt be condemned. Careful. If you're preaching or teaching Bible class, you be precise. You teach the truth and you say what the Word of God says. It's serious business. You're talking to your children. Everybody in this room can probably think of somebody who said something hurtful to you when you were a kid, and to this day, you still know it. It might have been a mom or daddy, might have been a school teacher or a coach, but it hurt. It cuts you at 9 or 10 or 12, and it's still there. It doesn't ruin your life, but I'm trying to say, well, I guess it could, but it shouldn't. But the point is, what I'm getting to is, I think about me and you know what we say. Be careful what you say. Grandma was right. If you can't say something nice, don't say something at all. I witnessed a situation one time at a gospel meeting, much like this, but there was a guy, I'll just use this as an example. Let's imagine there's some kid that grew up in this area, a congregation area, went down to Ann Arbor, didn't have anywhere good to go, went to Ann Arbor and went to school at Michigan. And he comes back home. But this guy had gone about 100 miles from home. He wasn't from Bangs, but he was from our area. Well, he came to another congregation in the area that's having a meeting. And when he came in, one of the men, the guy had put a little bit of weight on. He'd gone off to college. You know how you do. You start eating pizzas and whatever and not going to class all the time. Stephen said, gained a little bit of weight. Comes in and goes, whoa, you hadn't backed away from the table much either lately, have you? So a Christian college student drives 100 miles from campus to come support a gospel meeting, and you say, hey, fat boy, have a seat. What's wrong with you? That is stupid. I would say it's borderline sinful. It certainly wasn't helpful. You think that's going to be more encouraging for that person to come back to church or not? No, be careful what you say. You know, we know when we're getting bald. I have a very optimistic barber. I go in the other day and Lacey says, Michael, I got good news and bad. I said, well, give me the bad first. What's the bad? She said, well, you're going gray. I said, well, okay, I kind of got that. What's the good news? She said, not for long. But don't make fun of people who are bald or have this. Well, just let it go. Brother, we're Christians. Our souls live eternally. We have bigger fish to fry, and certainly hurting your feelings or getting my feelings hurt, and that also is a violation of a trust of a sort. Here in God's house should be an environment of complete safety and acceptance on all that mess. We're about spiritual matters and truth and doing the right thing. And if we are faithful, we have a beautiful soul, a beautiful spirit. That's what matters. And of all people, we should know that. And sometimes the older ones, no offense to the ones here, I don't know y'all, I'm sure y'all never do this, but sometimes old folks are the ones that are the dumbest on this point. Speaking of old folks and young people, I'll just go ahead, but since I already kicked over the can, I'll just go ahead and say it some more. You ever notice congregation has a lot of kids, and somebody hears somebody, hey, these kids need to quit running around here, they're ducking stuff over, they're going to run me over. Okay, that's true, but kids need to watch where they're going. That is true. And you could dead leg somebody, knock them down. That's true. But so is the other side. These old folks around here slow walking, got their canes out, got those walkers out. They can't go anywhere. They're standing in the way. The fact is, little people need to be taught and need to be more aware of their surroundings, and old folks do too. And both categories should thank God we had the other. We've got some wisdom. We've got people who should be honored because of their years of service to God. That is, the hoary head should be elevated. I don't care what our country says about youth. Beauty is the gray hair. The decades of faithfulness, that's great in the eyes of God. On the other hand, snot-nosed running around little kids, that's the future of the house of God. We need them too, right? So we need each other. And both of us should be aware of the other. And I say that kind of jokingly, but there's some truth in that. And I'm not serious. Children have to learn to be careful. At the same time, we shouldn't have an environment where kids are like, they don't want us here. We're just in the way. That's not good either. You see, we need to make sure we cultivate healthily both categories of respect for the other. All right, how about this? It kind of dovetails into this one. This is called the me trap. This is a big one. Me. Me. It's all about me. I'm not going to tell you the business I'm in because you won't like me. But people come in and it's always me. I think this, I think that, I think the other. Well, the same is true here. The me trap. Proverbs 16 verse 18. Pride goes before destruction and a haughty spirit before a fall. I'll tell you a story and I'll make a few more applications. One year back home, we have droughts pretty regular. Every couple of summers, you get pretty dry and some of the tanks dry up. And I heard a story about these two ducks and this frog. And this tank is drying up. Well, the duck's going to fly off and leave the tank. Well, the frog, he says, hey, I'm going to die. I'm going to bake out here. And I'm going to dehydrate and die. Can y'all take me with you? They said, we're ducks. We don't have any claws. We can't hold you. We got paddle feet. What are we going to do? Web feet? He said, well, you see that stick over there? If one of y'all grabs that stick with your bill and the other grabs it with his bill on the ends, I can grab the middle of my mouth and I'll hold on to fly me to the next big body of water. So they agree. So they got a hold of that stick and he gets the middle and they take off. Well, they're flying about 75, 80 feet above this guy's house, this farmer's in the backyard. He looks up and says, man, that's pretty ingenious. I wonder whose idea that was. And you hear, mine, splat. You know, we're that way sometimes. You know, we want to get credit for what's going on. I like what Christ told his apostles in Luke 17. When you've done all these things, you say, I am an unprofitable servant. I have done that which it was my duty to do. God should get all the glory and all the credit. They would say we commend each other and so forth, but don't be a seeker of such things. We'll pat you on the back. Jerry Clower used to always say, when we toot our own horn, we hit the pitch way too high. And there's a lot of truth in that. Be careful about this me trap. Proverbs 29, verse 23, a man's pride shall bring him low. Psalm 10, verse 2, the wicked in his pride does persecute the poor. Pride. How do you treat your waiter and waitress? You're sitting there and your tea glass is low. Oh, heavens to Betsy, you ran out of tea. Do you get your spoon out, start ding, 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 shaking the glass? She needs to go here and give me some more tea. Now, don't forget, she's got 5 tables, and there's 4 folks. We got 20 people she's trying to serve. You're not the only one in the room. I know that girl, she's just not doing a very good job. Then she brings your food. I told her I want those eggs over medium. They're over hard. How do we treat our service people? How do you treat your waiter and waitress? That tells you a lot about your Christianity. How do you treat the checkout girl or the checkout guy at the gas station, gas station or at Walmart or wherever? Do you even look up, or we just sit there doing this? Do we engage and speak? How's your day? How's your family? What's going on? You might be surprised how much they would. I had at McDonald's one time. I preached this. So once you preach it, you got to kind of do that. So I was put up this McDonald's, and I pulled up. I said, "Hey, how's your day going?" And she said, "It's been a little rough, actually. And bless your heart for asking." Well, it just kind of made her for a moment just, hey, because they're not a machine. Sometimes I go pretty quick with my business. And I went to a feast the other day. I walked in and said, hey, I need 10 sacks of this and 2 sacks of that and 100 pounds of this. And I said, and she had a name tag, it was China or something. I said, China, I'm sorry. I didn't even ask you, how's your day going? I just came in here and started yelling at you about business. Slow down and ask about them. But see what it's about me. Do you ever pull out in front of somebody when you're driving? I get aggravated. I'm going 75 miles an hour. There's not a car for 4 miles behind me. Grandpa, and I'm picking on Grandpa, I'm a grandpa. But anyway, an older man, pulls out in front of me, goes 1 block and turns back in. I guess he was in a hurry. But the point is, so I'm sitting there, so when you're that guy, well, I ain't going to wait. I shouldn't have to wait. I'm just going to go. No, let the people go by. Then go. Think about that. Or slow driving. I ain't going to move over. They can go around. Is that Christian? Up here, I like y'all signs. Maximum, minimum. Back home, we don't have that. We just got to speed limit. Of course, you can bump them with the truck, knock them off the road if you want to, I guess. But no, we don't do that. But it's an attitude problem. If you're that person, if you're always, they'll get out of my way, they can go around. What do you mean they? Who are you? Who died and made you that important to where your little whim had to be dealt with right now? I'll tell you a true story about me, and this would have been embarrassing if it had gone a different way. I'll back up. I was young, about like Travis and them. We had little bitty monkeys. They were in elementary. And we have a pickup line. You had to pick them up by, 3:20 or whatever. Well, me, I always try to get one more thing in my day before I go do what I'm supposed to do. So I should be picking up kids, but I'm at the bank, making a quick deposit. I'm going to run down there and pick my kids up. Of course, you get lectured by the teachers if you're late. I've done this a few times. You pull up, all 400 kids are gone, and there's yours. Sitting by the teacher who's like, I need to get home and get my day started. I'm off work. I got car duty. So I'm at the bank, and this little lady, little bitty, just very diminutive old lady is in front of me. This back when we went inside the bank. It's before direct deposits and all that. And she's digging through her purse. She finally finds her checkbook. And she can't even, she's shaking. She can't write. So she has to have Miss Linda, I know the lady there. She writes the check for her, gives it back. And this is like a Saturday Night Live skit. I'm back here just dying. There's a whole lot of us. And I'm just standing there. And finally they get the check written. And she finally gets her cash. And she starts to turn away. And Miss Linda Gray says to her, how are the grandbabies? Oh, let me show you. And she starts digging for pictures. And while she's digging, her cane falls. So I reach over and pick her cane up and I hand it to her. Oh, thank you, young man. That is just so sweet. I've got to know your name. Put your hand down. So I'm Michael Light. Michael Light, are you that preaching on the radio? I just love your program. He mentioned this morning I have a 30-minute radio program. Every one of those old ladies about, oh, me too, me too, me too. Now, brethren, this is where it gets serious. If I had been acting on the outside, the way I was thinking on the inside, I would have hurt the Church of Christ in my town. I would have hurt the Lord's kingdom that day. I was acting like a fool in my head. It's not her fault that I should have gone and get the kids first and then come to the bank, is it? Or come to the bank tomorrow. See, that's something else we never think about. Usually there's a reason that we are in those pressure situations, and it has to do with us not doing something else in the way that we should have done it. That's a cute story, but I'm telling you, brethren, how many times a week Do we, the brethren here at Davidson, hurt the church in the restaurants? How do you tip, by the way? At the bank? At the store? That's how you show, that's what you call showing Christianity. That's real Christianity. Everybody says the right thing. But what do we do? 1 Corinthians 15:58. That's how you shine that light properly. Be careful of that meat trap. Remember Daniel 4:30 this morning? Behold, my Babylon, which I have built for my glory. How'd that turn out for him? Not too good. Two more. Y'all in a hurry or not? Okay. I'm not going to go long, but I want to get these in. This next one is I call the misery trap. I'm going to show you how this works. I'm going to pick on, what's your brother's name, Travis? Justin? Yeah. I got a brother named Justin. I can do this. Okay, Justin. So Justin's one of these guys. I don't think Justin, I think he's pretty much an upbeat guy. But you ever know somebody, hey, Justin, hey, I ain't doing too good, I tell you what. So I've known Justin, because he's too young, but you might know him 50 years. And every time you ask him how it's going, it's bad. All the economy's bad, government's bad, jobs bad, wife's bad, everything's bad. It can't be bad all the time, guys. That's us. Last week it snowed. It's too cold last week. Today it's too windy. Tomorrow too hot. It's going to rain, maybe a thunderstorm. It's going to be too wet. It's always something wrong. They're miserable, and they enjoy the misery. Well, I'm feeling pretty good, but I'm sure I'll get over it. You know, people like that, they know they just always have a negative slant on everything. It can't always be that bad. The devil loves misery, because miserable people, you repel people. You ever see somebody that looks so sour, like they were weaned on a sour pickle? Proverbs was not joking when he says, for a man to have friends, he must himself be friendly. Brethren, you people, this building is not the advertisement of the Church of Christ here in Davidson. It's a nice facility, by the way. But you are the advertisement. Paul says we have this message written on earthen vessels. We have the gospel in earthen vessels. Remember in Titus he talks about adorning the gospel? Travis, you haven't preached that sermon. Pull you one together, I'll send you one. But it's called adorning the gospel. Christ tells them, you adorn the gospel. How do you make it look? If I grill you a big old pretty steak and then I put it on the bottom of a nasty trash can lid, you want to eat that? Probably not. You ever watch? I'm married, so I am forced on occasion to be in the room when there's a cooking show on. But you know what plating the food is, right? They make it pretty. Have that plate, they put a little bit of that green stuff on there and drizzle something on there, so it's pretty. Your life, your attitude, you make the gospel pretty. It's nice to meet people who are nice and friendly and happy and energetic, enthusiastic. The word theos, talk about Greek. Want to go, Michael? Enthusiasm, God in you. Theos, God in us. We should be the happiest, most content people on all the earth. I don't mean giddy and stupid. And I'm not saying we run around just laughing when bad things happen to us. But like 1 Thessalonians 4:13 says, we don't sorrow like those who have no hope. We understand the big picture. So the idea of not being miserable, I just want to bring this out. In the Garden of Eden, now think about this. Think about it seriously. Eve is married to the only perfect man that ever existed. He was perfect, and she was too. And they're living in paradise. And the devil was able to convince her while living in paradise that she was missing out. To create within her the sense of misery or lacking or want, while she literally was living, married to the greatest man to ever live, in the only perfect marriage, in the only perfect situation. He convinced a person who was living in perfection that it wasn't perfect. And when it gets in your head, you can talk yourself into a bad place. You ever have somebody slight you just a little bit, or you perceived a slight? And by the time you got through talking, they were horrible. You built within yourself resentment, maybe hatred. Maybe you've never spoken to them again. They may not even know what they said or did. That's why Matthew 18 is pretty important. You know, if I offend you and you come to me and say, hey, brother, listen, when you said that, I don't get that, and it really hurt me badly. Well, at least now I can discuss. I may have told the truth, and you might be wrong, but or vice versa. But we can communicate it. And even if you're wrong, I can probably restate it in a way that makes you understand I wasn't trying just to hurt your feelings. That wasn't the intention in that moment. Jeremiah chapter 9, Jeremiah plays that poor me. They're not listening. I'm preaching. They're not listening. So I'm going to quit preaching. Remember how that turned out? He says, I tried not to preach. But then the word of God was like a fire burning in my bones. And went back and preached anyway. I've got 3 or 4 more examples on that one. I'm going to pass over on that now for the last one. I tell you what Paul did, though. Look how Paul did this. Romans 8, verse 18. He says, I reckon that the suffering of this present world is not worthy to be compared to the glories that come next. Did they ever insult Jesus? Yes. They spat on him at his trial. They spat on him at his crucifixion. I've been spit on a few times when I played football, and I took it out on the guy pretty good the next play. Christ got spit on quite a bit, and he didn't take it out on anybody. He took it. So what if you have to take an insult? So what if somebody doesn't think you're the best thing since sliced bread? So what if you don't get to go first in line? You're not named, they left your name off the program, whatever. Get over ourselves, keep our eyes on Jesus, and whatever slights come, prioritize them down here, they don't matter anyway, and serve God. The last one is the mediocrity trap. I'll just tell you, look at the book of Malachi. Malachi 1 and verse 6, a son honors his father and a servant his master. If I be your God, your father, where is my honor? If I be your God or your master, where is my fear? Ecclesiastes 9 verse 10, whatever your hand finds to do, do with all of your might. Don't you dare be mediocre. Man, since COVID-19, if you show up 5 days in a row, you got a job. And you're probably considered a real good employee. I've got a few of them. I'm on camera. But I'm telling you, when you hire people nowadays, we have had to lower the standard quite a bit. Don't you dare lower the standard before God. Back to Malachi. They say, Lord, how have we robbed you? In sacrifices, you gave me blind, crippled sheep. What are you giving God? I'm not discussing your contribution, though it might fall in this principle. I'm discussing Matthew 25, the parable of the talents. Given what God has given us, the years he gives us, the finances he's given us, the physical talent, the mental acuity. We've got the brains and the body to work. We've got family. We've got friends. If you don't, you come to the congregation, you'll have friends. Peter says, Lord, we gave everything up for you. He said, I'll give you 100-fold. Anybody who lost father and mother to serve me, look around you. You got a house full of fathers and mothers. You got them in every town where there's a church. You got them in every state and every country where there's a church. We have millions of brothers and sisters. But what you can't do is shortchange God. David said, I won't give God a sacrifice that costs me nothing. Whatever you have within you, you give God the best that you've got left. I can't do what I used to. He doesn't want you to do what you used to. He wants you to do what you can do now. I can't do now. I'll tell you one more joke and we're done. Be a good way to wrap this up. These 2 boys are sitting on the back porch. One old boy looks at the other guy and says, hey, Bob. Bob says, what? He said, if you had 2 pigs, would you give me one of them? He said, you're asking me if I had 2 pigs, Joe, would I give you? Yeah, I'd give you one. You're my best friend. I love you. Yeah, if I had 2 pigs, I'd give you one of them. I just messed the joke up. Too long. I've been up here too long. Now I'm going to tell it right and it ain't going to be funny. No, I'm not even going to tell it. I'll tell you, ask me afterwards. The way the story goes, he asked him if he had $2 million, would you give me $1 million of it? And he says, sure I would. Then he says, hey, would you give me a pig? He says, that ain't fair. You know, I've got 2 pigs. Okay? That's how we're with God. If I had a voice like Justin Torrey does, I would lead singing. I would sing out. No, God never said that. God made my voice. I sound just like he wants me to sound. He wants each of us to sing and give him what we do have. If I had as much money as that guy from over there, what was it again? You're from Mills Township? They just got a rich preacher over there. If I had the kind of money that guy had, I'd give more than I give. No. You give out of what you've got. If I was as good looking as Travis, well, I can't even illustrate that. That's not true. That's the old comment this morning. No. Brethren, listen. God, what's the old song we used to sing? If just a cup of water I put within your hand. then just a cup of water is all that I demand. But brother, he does demand that cup. Give God your best. This morning, you ladies, y'all showed up and showed out. We had a lot of food in there. Really good. If you're a good cook, you serve the church by cooking. The brother you're taking food to, that's important. We get aged members giving folks rides back and forth to doctors. That's very important. Ladies are way better than this than us guys usually, but sitting up with somebody at the hospital or the nursing home, that's important. Knocking doors, passing materials, sometimes that can be, whatever it is, fixing a flat tire for somebody, whatever your skill set. Brother Jimmy said he was used to be a mechanic. If you can help somebody's car, get them back on the road, do it. Whatever you can do for God, do that for God. Don't try to be me, and I won't try to be you, but let's be the best version of ourselves in service to God. That's 7 pretty quick traps or snares the devil kind of uses. There's no major sin in any of that. But each of those can cost us our souls. Let God help us self-reflect a little bit. If you're here tonight and you've not been serving God the way you should, this is probably not the kind of sermon you need to come down front and ask for prayers, unless you're known for one of these things publicly. But otherwise, do some self-reflection, maybe do some prayer, and ask God to help you, and he will as we try to serve him better. You just follow the Lord's invitation. Do so now. Together we stand and as we sing.